Tim,
Beth, back
here
again.
we
And
right
it's
here we
still
are again.
it's still sunny in Scotland, and I still
Oh,
decided to come inside and record just for us.
aw. Well, we thank you. So we are ending the Apocrypha finally. This is the last. Technically, there's some little bits in Esther, and I just got it was too confusing as to which bit to add, which bit not to add, and whatever. And I read half of Esther now, 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, and then I'm going to read the second bits of Esther, the whole thing, just encompass the whole thing, because it just makes the story richer. And I didn't really see any significant missing details or anything. But you and I were chatting, and Leah's episode releases today that we're recording. And I was very interested to know that what is in the Catholic Bible and then what is considered apocrypha for a Protestant isn't exactly the same.
Yeah, you mentioned it's weird. So you were saying it's like the Roman Catholics have got a bigger Bible than the Protestants because that includes something that Protestants would say, well, that's Bible plus Apocrypha. But then the Roman Catholics also have their Apocrypha.
Yeah. So not only should I not have read Second Esdras, I also should not have read Third or Fourth Maccabees. First and Second Maccabees is in a Catholic Bible, but not the other. And it's just, honestly, there was a bunch of stuffy old men in vestments that decided all this. So what is considered apocrypha to a Protestant and a Catholic is the Book of Jasher, the Book of Enoch, and evidently Second Esdras, which I thought Second Esdras was in their Bible, and it's not. So I have to do a bunch of research, and I didn't mean to lead anyone astray. People need to be discerning about what you look up on the internet and what you believe. But anyway. Okay, so as we finish the Apocrypha, we have Judith, which is in a Catholic Bible and not in a Protestant Bible. And I love the story. I think it's fascinating.
Sucked into it so quickly. I mean, it started with whoever it was, whoever son of, and I thought, really, can we just get going? I know the name's important. I know the people are important. And then boom, the story just wraps its arms around you and says, come with me for a little walk. And I thought, wow. And it's very precise as well. Her husband died. She remained a widow 3 years and 4 months. And it's sort of absolutely, we're telling you the detail here. Get it right, folks. I thought, oh, okay, pay attention.
It is. It's fascinating. I loved when the city leaders come to her. This is in 8:12. Who are you to put the Lord to the test today and to set yourselves up in the place of God in human affairs? You are putting the Lord Almighty to the test. I don't think anyone on this side of things, obviously, spoiler alert, we know what happens in the story, just like we know what happens in the story of Jesus. But at the same time, I kind of thought, well, I don't know what they were supposed to have done. I mean, yes, call upon the Lord, trust the Lord more is essentially the crux of it. But they said, okay, if we don't get rescued, then we'll give up. And I don't know that I blame them necessarily, but I just found that funny where she's instantaneously, when they go to see this wise woman and they ask her, she's like, what are you doing, fools?
But equally, that they're saying, who are you that you think such and such? And it's like, don't accuse the person. Let's look at the facts. And going straight on from 12 onto 14, when she then says, she replies with, you cannot plumb the depths of the human heart or the understandings of the human mind. If you can't do that, how do you expect to understand God and to know his deeper thoughts if you can't even do it for human beings? Come on, guys, get real here.
Yep, absolutely. She shows them what for. Something fierce. It's quite amazing.
The heading of 8 was the character of Judith. And I thought it really encapsulates that the whole of 8 gives us her character. Who is she? Well, she's determined, she's honoring and respectful, she's wise, she's a true leader. So I thought,
she also happens to be pretty dang foxy.
yes, we'll come to that.
I love in 9 where she talks about her ancestors of Simeon, and she's actually echoing the story of Dinah and Dinah's rape in the fields. And that's a spicy, interesting story that eventually we'll get to when we get round to Genesis next spring. But it is kind of funny to me because most people, oh, well, you know, their sister got raped and then Levi and Simeon went a bit mad. It's like, and their dad didn't really do anything. And it was like quite a lot of intrigue going on there. And I just thought it was interesting that she referenced Dinah. And Dinah is not in the genealogies of Jesus, but it is a significant story about women in the Bible, I feel like.
And to me, it was also interesting that she did reference Dinah, not the fact necessarily that she referenced Dinah, but she references because she sets out the facts. And okay, they're known to God already, but she's just setting out the facts. Here is my context. Here are my basic principles, whatever. And we often do that ourselves. Then she almost reminds God of who he is. You are eternal. You are all powerful, etc. And then and only then does she make her request. So she has got, it's not a formula and certainly not a magic formula, whatever, but she's got a way of establishing who she is in this this prayer, who she is, what her stakes are, who she's speaking to, and then what she wants. I liked the logic in the way that she thinks, the way she expresses herself.
Agreed. I also loved in 9:13, make my words deceitful. Like, help me lie, Lord, help me lie. And obviously, these are people that are attacking God's people and et cetera, et cetera. But it was kind of funny to me. And the best lies, in quotation marks, the best lies do have grains of truth in them, which is what Satan does, which is what he did in the garden. He's, master of peppering just enough truth, but then twisting it.
Moving into 10, that she prepares. It's not a case of that she just rolls out, here's the facts of the story. God, this is who you are. This is what I want. Right, let's roll with it. She then almost sort of take a breath, pause, get ready for this. This is an encounter that she's going to have, and she wants to be with God and God to be with her. So she prepares for it properly, and she bathes and so on. Then and she's ready to meet the enemy that way.
Yes.
And then that leads on to she's one foxy lady. She's astounding beauty. Yes, men are visual. They look to the visuals, but even the men could see the beauty plus. It's her character again, her openness to God, her mind, her wit, her cleverness, her leadership. Oh yeah, and her astounding beauty.
Right, right. It's not just that she's only beautiful, she's actually intelligent. And she, you see someone absolutely beautiful and then you hear them speak and think, oh.
Yes.
Whereas she's the whole package.
Yeah, and it's in, dare I say, the right order that you look to the person's character, their wisdom, who they are, how they are, and then the beauty, the inner beauty, if you like.
Yeah, well, and that was actually read relatively recently. It's how women of old made themselves beautiful, falling more in love with the Lord, which is sort of an interesting beauty treatment. Whereas Esther, goes and takes mud packs and whatnot. Whereas in the Hall of Fame in Hebrews, it does talk about how to make yourself beautiful is to be more in love with the Lord. I did highlight chapter 10, verse 7. When they saw her transformed in appearance and dressed differently, they were greatly astounded at her beauty. And it's not just her beauty, it's also what she added to that, the particular earrings, the particular tiara, all the 9 yards. And they'd only seen her in widow's vestments, widow's garments. And so it's,
for 3 years and 4 months.
This woman is foxy.
Yes. In 11, yeah, just in passing, she knew her role. There was no false humility. It's so often we go, oh, really, it's nothing, or I could never do whatever. She knew her role, and she knew that her role was acting out with God. It was not, she was not supplanting God. She would not even dream of doing that, but she knew that God was with her. And so her role was, God has sent me to accomplish with you things that will astonish the world. Now, if you break that down, she's going to do things that will astonish the world. No, she's been sent by God to accomplish these things with God and through God acting through her. Like I say, she knew the role. She knew what was going to happen and spoke of it. She talks a bit more about that, and then we get in 11, get down to verse 20, and they marveled at her wisdom. So they've been marveling at her beauty, and now they're going, and she's such a clever one. She really is.
Or Fox.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I thought, actually, I did have a tiny little pencil mark above that in the end of 17. He will tell me, he's talking about God, he will tell me when they have committed their sins. And I thought that was so funny. Holofernes and his whole army and everything are like, oh, she's so smart. God's going to tell her when somebody else sins? Like, that's just to me sort of like, you are pretty dumb. Now, they're not. They're obviously beguiled by her, whether her beauty and her wisdom, both, whether it's just one or the other or whatnot. But it sort of seemed funny to me. Yeah, God's going to let me know when somebody else sins.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I loved in, if we're moving on to 12, I loved in 18 where she says, I will gladly drink, my lord, because today is the greatest day of my whole life. I'm going to kill you. She doesn't say that part, but she's like, oh, yes, of course I'll drink with you. And then I really thought it was funny above that in 12 at the end, when it says, if we do not seduce her, this is Holofernes talking, she will laugh at us. Were the Assyrian women like total hoes? Why would she laugh at them if they didn't seduce her? Do they not have chaste women? Like, what?
Yeah. I wonder if there's an element of we will have failed, we will have been less than the perfect man that I'm trying to portray myself. If I mean, look at me, I'm gorgeous, I'm wonderful, everyone's
Yes.
going to fall for me. And if I can't seduce her, she's just going to stand and laugh and say you're weak.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting take. I like that. It's good. I do think it was interesting in 13:8. Then she struck his neck twice with all her might and cut off his head. And this is for me, an echoing of Jael and Cicerna, and when she takes the tent peg to his head.
Yes,
and again, we have this whole, in that particular case, Jael gives him Cicerna milk and lulls him to sleep as like a baby. And in this case, Holofernes is dead drunk, as drunk as he's ever been in his life, which is, you're going to seduce a woman. And I don't need to get too graphic or technical, but drinking men and, horizontal tango is not usually the best. It's just sort of like, okay. But he's drunk. And in essence, that's God's protection for Judith. Like, he's so drunk that he doesn't know what for. And so then she essentially can take his own sword and kill him, which is also an echo of Goliath and David using Goliath's sword to kill him.
Yeah, I thought it interesting that he got himself drunk. She didn't feed him and ply him with alcohol to lure him, whatever. And he was so convinced that anything he did, he was going to succeed in, and he could do anything. So he got himself drunk.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm gonna jump really far with that segue to 14:18. The slaves have tricked us. One Hebrew woman has brought disgrace on the house of King Nebuchadnezzar. Look, Holofernes is lying on the ground and his head is missing. So this is what you just said. He's so gonna conquer everything. He's so got it together. And then he gets himself drunk. And then a woman is what kills, or basically takes down the Assyrian army that is attacking Judea.
Yeah, and if you take that in 13, she says that she's going to do things that will astonish the world. So he's got himself drunk, she's cut off his head, she's taken down this whole empire personified in him. Yeah, that's pretty much going to astonish the world, that one, quote, mere Hebrew woman can do this. She's done it. That's going to astonish the world. And that's what she said she was going to do with God's help, through God.
Absolutely. And in 15:11, it says, all the people plundered the camp for 30 days. I mean, dude, that is a lot of plunder. I
liked also in 16, she summarized pretty much all that she'd asked of the Lord, all she had done through the Lord's help, and all she would go on and do. So it wasn't a case of, like you're saying, that's it, life's over, I've finished, there's nothing else for me to do. And to me, that's encapsulated in 16:13, where she says, I will sing to my God a new song. O Lord, you are great and glorious. Now, so often we do say, and rightly so, God, you are great and glorious. To her, this was a new song because this was a new aspect, a new perspective that she had of the world. She'd accomplished all these things. What was still greater, whether greater than the empire she had killed off by killing off, or greater than her because she done it all. No, it's God. He's greater yet. And I like the fact, you can say the same words. You are great and glorious, but I'm going to say it as a new song to you, Lord. I'm just not just trotting out the same stuff.
Yeah, that's good. A new thing. And yet that's after what she'd accomplished.
Yes.
All right, I'm ready to leave Judith. How about you?
Yep. Yep.
Tobit. So this is another book. It has some more weirder stuff. Judith is a little bit more, I guess, mainline, at least from my perspective. Yeah, it seems a little incongruous that a woman would take off the head of Holofernes, the king's commander, but it's still somewhat logical. Whereas Tobit and the white film and the angel Raphael, we're not quite into drunken elephants, but definitely in that territory, in my opinion.
I have never read Tobit in my life. I've never come across it. And as I was reading it, and Tobias, and as you say, Raphael the angel, I'm thinking, I know bits of this deep down in my memory. Where, how, what? And I remember that when I was a child, my mother had taken the whole family to see a play, Tobias and the Angel, and I've seen this acted out. I can't remember how old I was. I was junior, so I don't know, 8, 9, 10 at the
Right.
most.
Yeah.
So I would not say it's familiar, but bits of it, I'm thinking,
Hey, somewhere, somehow, yeah. That's why you
yeah.
take kids to VBS. So I don't have too much in terms of the first chapter. Obviously, we're establishing Tobit's character and the fact that he is an Israelite. And he says he's from Naphtali, but
Yeah.
he's still going to Jerusalem to sacrifice when the Israelites kind of get a little wonky there. And he still goes to Jerusalem because he's trying to maintain worshiping God himself as opposed to a calf and Dan. That would be the inference that the Israelites have gone askew. And then when they're carried away, he is in Israel, so he's carried away with the Israelite captives and goes to Nineveh. All these pieces, when you read the Bible often, you start to put pieces together, and especially when you have names that you're not familiar with, you know, wait, what's it called? Who's his name? And then you start to get a little bit more familiar with these names that you're unfamiliar with, and situations, Babylonians, Chaldeans, Assyrians, and which bit. And I think it's super helpful that, okay, I think I know who these are. So it just comes together slowly but surely. And I think I've been at this for, I don't know, something like 30 years, and I still don't think I've got it all together. But getting there.
I was intrigued. In Tobit 1 in 5, it says, King Jeroboam sets up the golden calves in Dan to be worshipped. And you think, why? Well, he presumably knew that Aaron had tried this. It didn't work well for Aaron. So why is he doing it? And then you think, well, why do, forgive me for anyone who does smoke, but why do you smoke when you know the consequences? Why do you drink and then drive? You know the consequences. And some people still do. Because in the moment, you think, it's not going to affect me, or I'm fine. I'm in charge of this, whatever. So,
Tell you, having had more of a prodigal past than you have, I would tell you that it's probably more about, I've got this, right? Oh, it'll be fine. I'm good. You know, I can do stupid stuff and still get away with it. I'm youthful and therefore, have a lot of bolster, I guess would be what I would say about it. If I can have my cake and eat it too. And yet, no, it never works out well that way.
yeah. And then in 22, this is in Tobit 1:22. It says Ahikar was keeper of the signet. Now, what you were saying about piecing together the jigsaw pieces with the different names and the roles they had. So seeing that he was keeper of the signet in Scotland, I'm a lawyer, otherwise known as an attorney, and I am a writer to the signet, which is a society in Scotland. The writer is an old Scottish word for a lawyer, because we were the only ones who could read and write. That's what they say. And the signet was the king or queen's ring, and you would write the proclamation or the rule, whatever, and then the signet would be the mark to put it on. So the fact that this guy is the keeper of the signet, I can understand that he's the one who's entrusted with the preparation and promulgation of king's proclamations, king's rules, the law. So yeah, I just
Well,
sort of
and he gets Tobit out of a lot of trouble.
yeah.
Tobit was trying to be righteous and burying people. Audrey has a thing that she feels that cremation is evil and satanic, and why would we burn bodies? I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but it's an interesting concept. And when you get into Ezekiel, which eventually we will, and the dry bones and bones coming together and new bodies, there's lots of stuff that I don't think any of us have a grasp on necessarily. But in terms of this, he's trying to do right, Tobit is, by burying the bodies and not leaving them for scavenge. And he's trying to honor them, which I think is a lovely thing. And then he gets in so much trouble. The only thing that isn't taken away is Tobias and Anna, his wife and son.
Yep.
And yet Ahikor gets him out of all that trouble. And then he still does it, which is, but holding to righteousness. I loved how this verse in and of itself in Tobit 2:4 isn't significant of itself. Then I sprang up, left the dinner before even tasting it. And then later on, Raphael actually at the very end talks about this and says, this is how dedicated you were, as you didn't even finish your dinner. You went to do the thing, which I found funny. I was like, okay, I mean, that's great. Again, he's walking in righteousness, but it's so important because he just left his dinner. Okay, so before we go to 4, we got to talk about, because we have to talk about drunken elephants and putting away your wife. In Tobit 2, this is chapter 4, or sorry, verse 14, the second half. But I did not believe her. So his wife does something right. She gets given the kid, the goat, and they argue. And so I was like, was he thinking about putting his wife away? But I did not believe her. And I wouldn't say this about you and Elspeth, nor myself and my husband, but at a certain point, you get older folks, they bicker back and forth like a little bit when they've been married for like 60 plus years and stuff like this. And I find it funny because then again, later on, spoiler alert, when she's waiting for the son to come and Tobit can't see, and she's like, he's dead, I know he's dead. And Tobit's like, shut up, woman. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Equally, I thought he just sort of looked over the whole thing and just didn't. He wasn't overly impressed with it because it was only a goat. It's not as if it was an elephant. Come on.
There we go. Tie it all together. Brilliant. Okay, sorry. So 4.
4, yeah, yeah. Just the fact that the whole of 4 just reads like Proverbs or a book of wise sayings, and you can sit down and think, yeah, I get this. It helps ground me. It helps me navigate. I'm pleased to be working my way through this. It's a pleasing chunk to read.
There's a little bit right above 4, 3:16. At that very moment, the prayers of both of them. And I felt like this was some sort of show where all of a sudden you switch scenes and you see Sarah and you're like, who's this? What's going on? Like I'm not tracking. And they've just introduced this new character that later obviously ties all together, but you don't know this at the time. And I just found this interesting, that the prayers of both of them were heard in the glorious presence of God. And this echoes Job in that your prayers do come to the ears of the Lord. Let's call something ridiculous. Let's say you're under pressure in terms of timing and you've got to get to the post office and you drive into the car park and you say, Lord, give me a parking space.
Yeah.
Now, is that a truly a good prayer to issue? I don't know. I think God does care about things down to the color of socks you wear because he loves us, not because he's particularly concerned about the color of the socks. He's concerned with your provision, that you have socks, that you have choices, that you have possibility of more than one color of sock. And so therefore, a prayer for a parking spot, I don't think is inherently evil. Is it focused on the right things? And yet here, these are prayers of people, of a man that cannot see, and of a woman who has 7 men have died that she's been married to. What? And I wonder also with this whole 7 men dying, and we'll get to Asmodeus, was Tobit what the Pharisees were asking Jesus about when they said, so there's this woman and she's married 7 different brothers? Yeah. I just kind of was like, was one of my little echoes there. But anyway, sorry. Moving on.
Now that you mention it, it's really good, this chapter 3 of how it sets the scene so well, that we've got Tobit blind, disaster. How can you come back from that? And particularly if we put on our judgmental, modernistic, oh, we know what medicine is like. They didn't know it in those days because they're not as clever as we are now. And so you've got that on the one hand. You've got Sarah, who's got this history of husbands and they die. And then it links them both with Raphael is going to heal them. And you think, oh yeah, how is he possibly going to heal them both? And it starts off quite dramatically by saying that that Sarah is going to get a husband, not just any old husband, but Tobias, Tobit's son. And you think, Tobias, don't! It's like the security guards in Star Trek. If you beam down to the planet with Captain Kirk, you're going to die. It's not well. Don't do it. And then it says, and Raphael is going to do this, and is going to set her free from the demon. So wait a minute, you're telling me that even Tobias is going to live? How is this possible? Okay, I'm going to sit back, give me the popcorn, and let's see how they work this one out.
Right. I love how Tobit is very easily convinced when Raphael's like, no, dude, she's for you. And he's like, she has killed every husband and I'm an only child, so no, thanks. That's his logic. And then pretty much immediately, it's like, oh, don't worry. Do not be afraid, for she was set apart for you for the world before the world was made. You will save her and she will go with you. I presume that you will have children. So I find this hilarious. Raphael knows that Sarah and Tobias were meant to be together before the world began, yet he's not sure if they're having children. What? Like, again, the things that angels know and don't know, it's kind of confusing, but it's still amazing.
It's confusing but reassuring because they're angels. They're not God. They don't get to know everything. Only God does. So it's quite right that he would know. It's, where are we now? 5:7, where Tobias is saying, wait for me, young man. Sort of Tobias saying to Raphael, this angel who knows how old he is in earth years, etc. But Tobias is saying, young man, wait for me, young man. I'll go and tell my father, for I do need to travel with you, etc. And then Tobias says, all right, I will wait, but don't take too long. And cultured.
You mean not Tobias? You mean Raphael as
Raphael says, Raphael says, I will wait, don't take too long. So, culture alert. Oscar Wilde, the playwright, in the play, The Importance of Being Earnest. Gwendolen says to Ernest, if you are not too long, I am prepared to wait for you all my life. And it's the same thing. I'll wait. Just don't take so long.
Right. Hurry it up. Let's go. Let's go. And speaking of which, we need to burn through some more of this. I did find the fish bizarre. I got to talk about the fish because it's like he sticks his toe in the water, and then that particular fish that has the cure for Sarah, which is basically bad smell. What? And then the film on Tobias's eyes, I don't like fish.
Again, I wonder, fast forward a few millennia or whatever, Saul is blinded by scales on his eyes. He's led in, and he's told, is it Ananias who puts his hands on him, and the scales fall from his eyes, pretty much the same way. I wonder if there's a bit of fish gallbladder involved in that one as well.
Interesting. Yeah, good point. And truly, the significant part is when Raphael discloses his identity at the second half of 12. And this is your natural reaction to seeing an angel, is falling in your face and shutting your mouth, because you're just gonna be so overwhelmed with the presence of the Lord that you don't have anything to say. I find it interesting that he reveals himself. He doesn't need to do it. He's disguised himself the whole trip and everything's gone fine.
I was going to give three quick things from earlier, just because they do strike me. One is that when Tobias has married Sarah and they're going to go to bed, but first of all, they stand up and pray. They implore the Lord of heaven to have mercy and safety be granted to you. And it just struck me that it's the right thing. Sort of we were talking earlier about horizontal nocturnal activities and so on, but praying and inviting God into your life, that's primary. That's the first thing. I just, it says it the right way, the honoring way, the respectful way. So that's the first one. Tobit 8, where the odor, as you said, the smell of the fish, the odor of the fish so repelled the demon that he fled to the remotest parts of Egypt.
It's in
Now, what I
Egypt.
love is the thoroughness of Raphael. Raphael didn't just go, that's him, he's gone. No, Raphael followed the demon and at once bound him there hand and foot. So he's like, if you're going to do a job, do it properly. There you go. You ain't coming back.
Yep. Absolutely. So with the time left, should we move on from Tobit? Any other final thoughts on Tobit?
No, nothing further on top of it. I liked it. It was, like you say, a bit of a wacky story, but yeah, it was a good rollicking story,
it's
and there
fun.
was a lot of wisdom in it.
And I guess I probably should come out. Not quite 100% there, but I think I'm 85 to 90% there thinking that these books are canon. Now, again, whether we canonize them or not, again, bunches of old stuffy men in the Council of Trent and Nicaea and whatnot. But I don't know why you wouldn't include these things. Maccabees fills in a whole bunch of gaps that we don't have. Sirach was Proverbs and Psalms on steroids. Wisdom 2 and Judith and Tobit are great books. The additions to Esther, I'm good. I'm really good. And again, we've all agreed, you, me, Dave, Audrey, you guys are good to read them regardless because they have good information. And I don't think my declaration of whether they are canon or not, I'm just saying personally for me, I'm looking at this going, yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm okay to include this. Now, of course, then we're going to get at some point and someday maybe further afield with things like Jasher and Enoch. I definitely think that there's some stuff missing and that history has been a bit wobbly about all this. That's my submission.
I will certainly say I'm not anti-canon about it. Not necessarily saying I'm saying it is canon, just I'm not anti it. It's a lot of wisdom in there.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Malachi, you had something there.
Malachi, just the whole thing all about blemished sheep being a poor sacrifice. And it reminds me of great scenes in the Chosen Christmas special. In fact, both of them, but probably the first one, I think, where the priest rejects the lame lamb that the poorest of the shepherds brings forward and essentially calls and prays for one unblemished one to take the sins of all. It's like, if only you knew what you were saying. So Malachi to me sums up that, or rather, let's go the other way around. The Chosen Christmas Special sums up that aspect of the unblemished lamb as the sacrifice, and why do we call the Jesus the Lamb of God, etc. So.
Yeah, I loved, this is in Malachi 1:14, cursed be the cheat who has a male in the flock and vows to give it, and yet sacrifices to the Lord what is blemished. And there's a parable that Jesus tells where he asks the father asks the sons to go work, and the one's like, yeah, I'll be there right now, Dad. And the other's like, nah. And then fast forward a little bit, the one that said, nah, I'm not going to go, does say, oh, yeah, I should help my dad. And he does go. And yet the one who's like, yeah, I'll be right there, Dad, doesn't go at all. And so it's kind of, to me, this contradiction in, if you vow to give something, you better darn well do it, right? And hiding and giving your yuckies when you've got the goods, not okay. Not okay.
3 and verse 9, how can we thank God enough for you in return for all the joy that we feel before our God because of you? It's like Paul has taught, he's coached, he's mentored, both in the ordinary secular work and also in the faith journeys. And I've, over my life, I've done that. I have taught, mentored, coached young people, especially on their journey, both in work, in secular mode, and in faith. And I just get Paul's statement of just all the joy that I feel before God because of what God has done through this. And it's not, there's absolutely no element of what was my part in this. It's almost stepping back from the vignette and watching God work. And if and to the extent that God worked through me, through whoever, you see the God's working and the result of God's work, and you just go, God, you are amazing. So I just understand what Paul was writing there.
Nice. I did want to, and I'm not going to open the can of worms. We're going to sort of peek at it. First Thessalonians 4. So this whole section from 13 to 18, this is definitely part of eschatology and what you think. Miles is coming next week. So we're going to return to some of the eschatology that's in Little Season. So this is poignant and important. People make too much of it in the sense that we read Ezekiel and we read the dry bones. I referenced this earlier. I don't understand, in my human understanding, what a new body is like. I don't understand walking through walls. I don't understand eating when maybe you don't need to poop. I don't know. Not going to go there. That's kind of gross. But I mean, like, and there is definitely a sentiment that Satan thinks that we humans are these icky, disgusting, fleshly, gross. We're not angelic. And yet, how far do we go with that? And I just don't understand it. So, and it's all good. Like, it doesn't matter. You need the blood of Jesus Christ, the confession that you believe in him, and we're all good. So whether our eschatology lines up with one another doesn't really matter. But I do feel like sometimes this particular passage, even though I'm drawing attention to it, isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is that he is the way, the truth, and the life.
Yep. As you would say, amen. Well, in Psalm 63, verse 5, is just, my soul is satisfied as with a rich feast. So that just feeling where you've not gorged, you've not overeaten, you're just satisfied, you've eaten enough. My mouth praises you with joyful lips. So you need to express this joy. I think of you on my bed and meditate you in the watches of the night. It's just sort of, this is the right place, the right time, the right way, just to be able to say, Lord, you are everything to me. And I love this idea of meditating on you in the watches of the night. So some people who cannot sleep, they distract themselves, whether to try and get back to sleep or what. And maybe that's right for them. Other people who cannot sleep, they choose it as a time to draw closer to God. Okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to read my Bible, or I'm going to pray, whatever. And so, whatever circumstance you're in, what is your response? Where are you with God? It's not where is God? God's with you. It's where are you with God? Where are you? Are you recognizing? Are you seeing him? How are you responding to him? So it just, yeah, I like this idea of meditating on you through the watches of the night.
I think I had a conversation with Audrey about meditation and how meditation has been hijacked in our modern New Age era. And yet, meditation, considering the word of the Lord, is a good and healthy and wonderful thing. And it doesn't have to be New Agey or weird. It has to literally be the verses, the thoughts, the having read some of this and thinking and pondering about it. And when you are in a Judith type situation, calling out and saying, hey, I need intervention, I need help. And yet here's a quiet, small, simple, God, you're amazing. You're amazing. No matter what's going on, whether you're in need or not, God, you're amazing. And thanking him and appreciating him for all that he does for us.
Yeah. And with that in Psalm 64, it's not a sprinkling of magic dust. It's not sort of, God is with me, therefore everything is right in my life. It's sometimes said that, particularly in the West, we say, God, get me out of this situation. Whereas a lot of, particularly in the African subcontinent, they will say, God, be with me in this situation.
Very good.
And in this one, in 64, in 2-4, it's saying, hide me from the secret plots of the wicked, from the scheming of the evildoers who whet their tongues like swords, who aim bitter words and arrows. So again, he's saying that's happening. So Lord, be with me in this. Hide me, be with me, protect me, etc. It also struck me that British English and American English divided by a common language. So it's from the scheming of the evildoers. And I know that from bitter experience, in the UK, if you say a scheme, it's just a plan, it's an idea. There's nothing evil to it. But in American English, a scheme,
It's
let's not go
nefarious.
down that. It's a vice. It's not a good thing. So, I mean, I was once in a negotiation meeting and I said, right, everyone, and again, as an attorney, I said, okay, I've got the plan. I've got a scheme that we can do. And the Americans in the room just went, I'm not going here. I don't, what? What's that?
Yes.
But that Psalm 64, like I say, it acknowledges the attacks. It acknowledges the evil tongues and the words, and that they can hurt. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. No, words do harm me. Let's.
Yeah, we've talked about that before.
Yeah,
You've mentioned that. And it truly is. It's kindness in how you're approaching things and
yeah,
just in the verbiage alone.
yeah. Psalm 65:4, it says, "Happy are those whom you choose and bring near to live in your courts." And that's, to me, let's have a look at 1 John 4:19. We love because he first loved us. Happy are those whom you choose to bring near to live in your courts. So there's that.
Yes.
And then finally for me, Psalm 66, verse 20, "Blessed be God because he has not rejected my prayer or removed his steadfast love from me." Again, that's just comforting that wherever we are in our path, we can choose to ignore God. He's still with us. And he's not removed his steadfast, his loyal love from us. He gives us that, and that stays with us because he stays with us.
Amen. No matter the circumstances. I love this stuff, and other people might be like, oh, you too. Regardless, we're going to get through the Bible in a year.
Absolutely. And Apocrypha.
Right. See you again, Tim.
Bye.
Bye.